a big conversation. We're trying to have him on the show next week. Got us together to hold us accountable. And then Major League Baseball itself with a statement today. We offer our condolences to the families of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the families that have lost loved ones due to senseless killing and injustice. To be clear, our game has zero tolerance for racism and racial injustice. The reality that the black community lives in fear or anxiety over racial discrimination, prejudice, or violence is unacceptable. Addressing this issue requires action both within our sport and society. MLB is committed to engaging our communities to invoke change. We will take the necessary time, effort, and collaboration to address symptoms of systemic racism, prejudice, and injustice, but we'll be equally as focused on the root of the problem, Major League Baseball, which, of course, has had its own interesting journey through race, dating long way back. Jackie Robinson Day has been a really sweet thing that the baseball has done. Now, when was the first year of Jackie Robinson? Can you remember, Andy?
I know. It's been a while now. A bunch of them, yeah. Let me see if I can look it up. But there's something powerful about that day. Something really bad about broadcasting those days because everybody's wearing the number 42. But it's also very, very cool. And to kind of listen to some of the players, whether they be African-American or Caucasian, the impact of what Jackie Robinson did is not lost on these guys, which is really nice to see that legacy and that history still stays with today's players. I think it kind of gets enlightened to them more and more as they're going through the minors and as they're encountering coaches that may have had interactions with those who interacted with Jackie Robinson, and I think it's really kind of cool.
Started in 2004. Thanks, Curtis, for looking that up. As obviously Andy was talking and I was listening
intently.
Right, exactly. So 2004. It's just not that long ago, right?
No, it's not. I remember the first one I covered with the Cubs, and it was a lot of times during my career of broadcasting, I ended up at Dodger Stadium when those things were going on. More often than not, when I was with the Padres, we were there. I want to say 2 or 3 times. For Jackie Robinson Day at Dodger Stadium, and that's like the place to be for that because there's a picture on a wall I posted pretty much every year on my Instagram and sometimes on Twitter of Jackie Robinson in uniform looking out of the dugout of the clubhouse, and there's a picture of him as you walk from the clubhouse level back up toward the press elevator, and you can't miss it. It's larger than life, and it just kind of puts it all into perspective when you see it.
That's awesome.
So the first Jackie Robinson Day, 2004, but it wasn't until 2007 when Ken Griffey Jr. asked the commissioner then, Bud Selig, if he could wear number 42. That's when the tradition started.
That everybody wore 42.
Everybody wore 42.
Yeah.
I think it was earlier than that. Was it 99 at that All-Star game or before that when 42 was retired throughout all of baseball? I want to say that's correct. Chris, maybe you can look it up for us. But I mean, it's kind of cool how that tradition is. I mean, every stadium, you see the number 42 retired. As a matter of fact, the Diamondbacks, that was the first number they ever retired.
Yeah, April 15th, 1997 was the
97,
day
that's what it was.
when they retired his number. Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, it makes sense. It was the 50th anniversary.
Yeah. Great man. A lot and so much you can learn by going back and doing some reading about this stuff that I'm bringing myself to do. Educating that's a lifelong endeavor, is it not? There's a lot of stuff that I think that these times that we're in right now, it's bringing up that I don't really know this part of our history and or so and so story. That when you take the time to actually learn and not spend time talking to me right now on TikTok, you might. It could be beneficial. Chris Bowden is always learning and talking hockey. He's going to do that next with us as the Blackhawks, of course, are in the playoffs.
Yes.
At Bowden Tweets coming up next, 720 WGN. That's right. Never say die, baby. It ain't over yet. We're looking at you, Edmonton.
Looking at you, Connor McDavid.
That's right, buddy.
Leon Draisaitl.
Blackhawks hockey is back. When, we're not exactly sure. Maybe Chris Bowden knows. Blackhawks pre, post. Best friends with Troy Murray. Good friends with John Weideman.
I was hoping you could tell me that information about the win.
Well, can you get on the ground floor here, Mr. Bowden? You're in the thick of this. What's going on here? I know that we're in phase 2, but when's phase 3? And the NBA's got this whole plan. What's the NHL doing? It's on your plate here, Chris Bowden.
Now all of a sudden it's reversed because the NBA finally decided to do something, huh? after the NHL took the lead. That's what we're doing here, huh?
By the way, thank you for being on.
I'm in the more than happy to. I'm in the thick of nothing. But we do know that late last week the NHL decided, okay, phase 2 is able to start this coming week if teams choose to do so, and if individual players choose to do so, voluntary basis, and the fact that they did that indicates that the playing field is level for at least all the 24 remaining teams that, in terms of local governments, medical authorities, at least for now, those teams can take this next step, I believe, as early as Monday. And, the question is, I think by and large, most of these teams to start out will have, a trickle of players come in, those who have been in their respective home cities during this entire time, if they so choose to go in and are comfortable enough going in based on a lot of the unknowns. But the league is, put the mandate down to be as safe as possible for those who do decide to go in, keep the groups small, if indeed there are groups, and schedule things and spread things out as much as possible to make it as safe as everyone can be through all this.
All right, so here's my thought on the whole thing, and hopefully Chicago gets selected as one of the hubs for this restart, because the Blackhawks would have a nice advantage being here at home, even if they're not going to have fans in the stands. But it kind of seems to me, Chris, that this is going to be more of a level playing field, period, because everybody's been off for the same amount of time. You're going to have players that were injured at the time the season stopped that are not injured anymore and going to be able to help your club out. And you would think that maybe this 5-12 matchup might end up being like an NCAA tournament 5-12 matchup where you could actually conceivably see a 12 beating a 5.
Yeah, and what's really going to be interesting here is, and you brought up, if they're chosen as a hub city, they could have an advantage. But I don't think there's really been clarification from the NHL as to, whether they're going to pick a West hub city and an East hub city and then flip those respective teams to travel to the opposite conference. So it's even more of a level playing field. Say if the Blackhawks were here at, if Chicago was chosen as a hub city, or if Edmonton was even chosen as a hub city, they'd have at least the creature comforts. I'm not sure if those teams would then be ordered, even if they're in their home city, to stay in a hotel to further, level things out even more. So there really hasn't been a clarification by the NHL in terms of whether they're going to flip the conferences to, the opposite conferences city. So that remains up in the air. And what's going to be real key through all this is, whether what's been going on over the course of the past 10 days here across the country, across the continent is going to have an effect on the health status of everyone. I guess we'll have a little better idea in the next 2 or 3 weeks whether that's going to become a factor, not only for Chicago or everyone else in terms of the testing and whatnot. There are just so many myriad factors in all this. But if everyone is able to, as I said a little bit earlier, from what I understand, it's going to be a trickle in most of these cases for these respective teams. I know Pierre LeBrun had a report yesterday about how Toronto has a heavy presence of players who stayed in that city, Pittsburgh as well, and Vegas. I think those are the three that he mentioned where there were still, a heavy presence of players in those respective towns. It's unknown how many Blackhawks are here in town, but we've certainly seen, some social media postings that we know some guys are in fact here recently. And but I would imagine even whether they're here in the facility or not, at least from a Blackhawks perspective, however quickly they come in, I would very much imagine the leadership of this team is staying in contact with the guys and making sure that they're all doing their due diligence with what they can do at home, even if they don't report, to the training facility as soon as some of the other guys will. Heck, we saw some pictures of Duncan Keith on social media today, and he's looking like a beast as much as ever. So these guys are pretty much, I'm fairly certain, all taking care of themselves pretty well with whatever they can do.
Yeah, that same Duncan Keith picture that they put on The Athletic, it says here that 6 players were in town as of Friday for the Blackhawks, with 3 more arriving at the end of the week. I don't know exactly if that's spot on accurate, but wherever they are, I assume they're staying in shape. By the way, Chris Bowden with us here on 720 WGN, who you did see. Did I not see you in The Last Dance? Were you? Did I?
He was the star of The Last Dance.
I mean, you were very much up and close with Michael Jordan, Chris Bowden.
Yeah, I think in one of the episodes, there was a little pregame media gathering on one of the episodes, and then I think on the last one, I was among the fools chasing Dennis Rodman down as he was making his way out of the Delta Center after they won number 6.
That's right.
So,
that's what I was like. That's what I was saying. Like, you were at the finals. That was awesome.
Yeah. It was a wild time to be covering those 6 and 6 and 8 years and 3 and 6 for the Blackhawks. So it hasn't been all bad here in Chicago, even though those teams spoil us and we're always wanting more, right?
Yeah, I was saying earlier today too about we're talking about baseball maybe going to 50 games and how much of a sprint that has to be, and if anybody really
can they get their act together, Andy?
I'd like
Come on, you guys are dying to get back to work. Can they just get their act together?
Say what, you go to Bettman's house and find out when they're going to start. I'm going to go to Manfred's. We'll compare restraining orders later, okay?
Okay. Right.
But what I'm saying is, 50 games is such a sprint, and to think that if anybody would question the champion after all is said and done, it would be kind of nuts to do so because you had to get things in order so quickly. And I kind of went back to the Blackhawks of 2013. No one's really questioning that. I thought it might be more difficult of a championship to win than even when they played the full season.
Yeah, I think they went 48 games in something like 99
days. Yeah,
90 days or something like that in the regular season. Oh yeah, let's then play for 2 more months, practically every other day. Yeah, I don't think anything should be taken away from any of these sports, provided they can get their acts together. And in this hockey situation, it's going to definitely be unique. Knock on wood that we get to this point where they can start the playoff and it runs smoothly. There's no, major setbacks. But whoever comes out of this, and no one is or someone is as smart and as trustworthy and as accomplished as Barry Trotz comes out yesterday. I saw in one of the articles saying, hey, once this thing starts up. If a 12 seed should happen to make a run, and he believes a 12 seed is capable of doing that in this type of setup, in this type of scenario, hats off to them. They're going to deserve it. And I think it's the old cliche. All you need is one hot goalie, one hot series to get some momentum going. And granted, the way they reseeded this, if we do get to this point, Blackhawks play Edmonton. Say they win that series in some form or fashion, they advance. They then take on the highest seed that comes out of the round robin, the number 1 seed, because they have decided to reseed after every round. So whether that becomes a St. Louis, a Colorado, a Vegas, or a Dallas, out of the 14 games that the Blackhawks played, those 4 teams, they had just 3 wins and a total of 8 points in those 14 games. But when you reset like this and momentum has been halted for so long, sure, when you look at talent on rosters, there are going to be differences and variables, and some teams are definitely going to be better than others on paper. But once you start taking those variables and intangibles into play, I'm kind of excited to see what might happen if we get there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Chris, to paint a scenario where the Blackhawks beat Edmonton. I think you went about 75% of the way there, but let's hear the final 25%. How do they beat the Edmonton Oilers? Let's just tee it up and get some sports excitement going on here.
Well, I mean, they'll have to do it with, their leaders leading the way, and guys like DeBrincat and Kirby Dach being able to almost play like they have another year of experience under their belts. With Dach no longer a rookie, Corey Crawford's going to have to be hot. And the guy that really killed them in the 3-game regular season series, even though the Blackhawks won 2 of 3, was Draisaitl, because I think he picked up 9 points, 10 points, something like that, maybe even more in the 3 games that he played. And they somehow kept Connor McDavid off the score sheet. In the 2 games that he played, he was injured in another. So finding a way to do that, and then you probably have to hope that Calvin DeHaan might be able to come back healthy from his shoulder surgery, adds a little bit more experience, a little bit more depth on the blue line, a little bit more reliability. And I think those are kind of the factors, even though Edmonton, during the course of the season, they decided to split up Draisaitl and McDavid. For a long time, they were on the same line together, so that creates another headache. But if the Blackhawks get DeHaan back, or able to spread out some of their time defensively, I think those are kind of the ingredients that you have to look at in order for them to get out of there and advance to the second round.
Win. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, safety is the number one concern, obviously, when you're dealing with coronavirus and testing and those kind of things. But I would also think that safety, as far as getting these players ready to go after such a long time off. I mean, training camp is how long? And I mean, it's not going to be a full training camp, but they have to have enough time at least to get ready, right?
No, sure. Yeah. I think it's not going to start before the next phase would not begin until July 10th at the earliest. And just say, for instance, guys start coming in this week. That gives them a full month of just reacclimating themselves, getting the training that the team trainers would want, getting back on the ice, because most of these guys, I'm sure, have been off it, and getting themselves acclimated to that point. And then you're probably looking at, probably a 2 or 3 week training camp, and trying to get everybody healthy out of that as well. And, those teams that are able to get the most players in as quickly as possible, whether it's through this individual stuff that's supposed to be beginning this week, or having all systems go by the time training camp starts, and keeping those guys healthy, those are the teams you're probably going to have to watch out for, especially with this 3, by that time 4-month break, 5-month break. By the time they get back on the ice again and start playing real games, like I said a minute ago, the matchups on paper, the personnel on paper, are going to have advantages, and other teams are going to have upper hands. But again, it's the crapshoot of the playoffs, and if the St. Louis Blues can be in last place after 1 week of January a year ago, and then end up winning the Stanley Cup, I'm about ready to believe anything right now.
Before you go, Chris, no pressure here, and the Blackhawks have been incredibly buttoned up over there. But who's going to be the next John McDonough?
Oh, I have no idea. I think they're very much still going through that process, and I would imagine that there's probably nothing more at this point than a couple of names that are being bandied about, and I think what they're probably more focused on, what they're definitely more focused on, is just getting through what this could be, the end of this season, because while they may have some names in the back of their minds, I think it's still way too early to even, get an odds-on favorite of anybody right now. I think right now they're clearly focused on, okay, if we don't have a president, we still have a GM who is in place, and there's still a season to finish here. We still have a head coach who's in place, and there's still a season to finish here. So I think that's strictly their focus right now, even though, due diligence says that they have to be kicking around a couple names in the back of their minds from those people in the decision-making process.
Yeah, it makes sense. Chris Bowden, good to be with you, sir.
Good to be with you. Take care. Get that baseball going again, too, huh?
Yeah, we'll do our best.
We're working on it. Talk to you soon, Chris.
See you,
See you guys.
Chris Bowden, pre, post, intermission, all of it. Your Chicago Blackhawks on 720 WGN. Come on back here. Have a little fun before we say goodbye at the top of the hour, 720 WGN. 9:48. 12 minutes to be with you. Thank you for having 720 WGN on tonight. I'm Mark Carman, Andy Masur with you, Curtis Koch producing. Ton of guests on tonight. We appreciate you. Chris Bowden, Mike Shirley, Darren Jackson, Adam Amin, all on the program tonight. So we're all spending, I want to have a little fun here to wrap up the show. We're all spending a lot of time together, right? And for those of us who have significant others, that is us turning into a significant experience.
A significant experience.
I was going to say challenge. I was going to say love. I was going to say trouble. So I just went with experience.
Okay.
But so, do you talk to yourself in the shower, Andy Masur?
Not normally.
Curtis, do you talk to yourself in the shower?
No, I do not.
So I don't understand people who don't. I have a running conversation with myself in the shower, and sometimes I get so far into my own head that it's not just in my head conversation, it's a verbal conversation that others can hear. And I've learned this, by the way, growing up. This is a Carman family trait. So we talk in the shower. But now that people are around all the time, if I do a nice, midday workout or whatever, and I'm getting myself back in shape over here, and then I'm taking a shower, and now, I'm being heard, and it's embarrassing.
So stop.
To stop it is like a whole conscious thing.
Okay.
I got to pay attention. And so then I'm not having the normal shower that I'm having. Like I'm getting got my bar soap going. I got my shampoo going. I'm having my moment in the shower. I'm thinking about my day. I'm having conversations. Oh yeah, I should, maybe I'll hit Curtis up about this. I can't wait to see Andy tonight, whatever's going on. And now I'm thinking that there's something wrong with me. Do other people do this? Do you talk in the shower? 312-981-7200. Where do you talk to yourself, period? Like walking down the street. Is there something wrong over here?
Does singing in the shower count?
Singing in the shower is not quite the same.
Yeah, that's a different animal.
But that's a little bit, but that's in the general ballpark. I mean, do you sing in the shower?
Sometimes, yeah, depending on what song is playing.
Yeah, I'm always listening to music.
Why is there a song playing in the shower?
Because you have music when you shower.
Do you guys really put on music to shower? On your phone?
Yeah.
I have a little speaker, portable speaker.
You have a portable speaker that you bring in
I don't bring like the speaker of the phone into the shower. I just like set it on the sink in my bathroom and just turn up the volume and just let it play.
I didn't know that people actually do this.
Of course they do.
They bring music. I mean, once in a blue moon, but they're not is that like an everyday thing?
Yeah.
Like this is part of the ritual?
Yep.
I mean, for you, it would interrupt your own conversation, so I can see why you wouldn't put it in there.
What? Who is it? Who are you listening to on your shower music situation there?
I've got an app, a couple of apps with music on it that I like to listen, harken back in the days of the 1980s and in early 90s.
I've got a
Spotify playlist for shower music.
That's another question for you. 312-981-7200. Do you listen to music like Andy and Curtis when you take a shower? What about a bath? Do you take baths? No baths?
No. I don't have a bathtub in my
Peaceful
bathroom.
bath music? That seems more, get the candles going in there. Get the old, maybe get some Beethoven. I don't know. I mean,
Beethoven. Like it starts with a B? Beethoven bath?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like classical music is probably is good bath music.
Brahms?
Something. I find this to be very interesting. I saw some comedian talking about the shower thing, and I'm like, I do that. Is this wrong? I feel like it's right. I think those who speak in the shower have a certain level of intelligence, perhaps, that others do not have. I think there's a brilliance in being able to communicate by yourself to yourself in the shower with the water flowing while you're soaping up, multitasking, and having your life that's right in front of you and your day on your mind all at the same time while caring about your family and friends seems high level to me. What do you think?
If you keep it internally, yeah. If you start pretending you have a microphone in front of you, then that's another story.
Well, that's a thing too. We have this. It's part of the deal. The best shows that I've ever done, I think, have been to my windshield. I do incredible work in my car.
Yeah, I've noticed on your Instagram stories.
I mean, I think I do. Maybe I should go back to doing the Carm commute. Those were epic.
Those were the days.
I got a recommendation for you, Andy.
Yes.
And you, thank you for putting on WGN. Tomorrow night, ESPN 30 for 30. Did you watch Bruce Lee growing up?
I did not a whole lot, but I'm interested to see how they portray him and how they do this.
So it's called Be Water, and I interviewed the guy. I interviewed the director this week, Bao Win, and really interesting guy. And so I've actually have seen Be Water because I got the
full advanced screening.
I got the advanced screening hookup thing. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's really, really well done. And it tells, it's another story about American history and a guy who was trying to fight to get himself into film here and was denied a leading actor role because he didn't speak English as clearly as they wanted in Hollywood. And then he went to Hong Kong to do it and became this, phenomenon. Then he comes back here. I don't want to, ruin the whole story.
Right.
But it's really, really well done. I highly recommend Be Water tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in the one that's going to be after that, the Long Gone Summer, the story about the 98 home run chase between Sosa and McGuire.
That Sammy Sosa guy, that Mark McGuire guy?
Yeah, it's that should be pretty interesting to see how it's portrayed because they have extended interviews with both McGuire and Sosa. I'm really kind of curious if there will be any new ground broken as far as number 21 is concerned, and maybe coming clean on some things. I don't know, but I doubt that would probably be part of it. But, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you kind of scoffed at me a little bit when I told you about the black eye that baseball could have if they don't get the season going, because Sosa and McGuire basically did bail baseball out, whether you want to believe the conspiracy theories or not, that everybody around the game knew what was happening and turned the blind eye because it was bringing fans back to the game or not. It did. And that's pretty much how it goes.
It certainly took it to a whole nother level. What was your role in the game at that point?
I was not fully in baseball at that point. I was covering that particular team for that National Sports Network.
That was the one-on-one time for.
Yeah. So I was there every once in a while. I was not there around it daily.
Okay.
But it was just an interesting whole time because interleague play had started the year before. And Sosa McGuire thing happened in '98, and Cubs were fighting for a playoff spot, and Sosa hit the 20 home runs in June, and it became a national phenomenon. And when McGuire was the first one to break Maris's record, it was a huge deal at that point.
Yeah, it was, and
at that point,
for sure. And Sammy, caught him at 62, and then the Cubs' last series that year was against the Astros, and they were trying to get in a wild card spot. And Houston was a good team, and you're playing in the Astrodome. And then the Cardinals were playing at home. I want to say the Expos.
Yeah, I think it was Montreal. I think Carl Pavano was the one that gave up number 70.
Yeah, McGuire had 17 homers that final weekend to get to 70 and win the crown. But covering that year. First of all, I had my head in the sand. I didn't think anything was going on. Sammy was talking about, I'm taking Flintstone vitamins.
Yeah.
And I flat out believed him. Like, the guy takes Flintstone.
I like the Dinos. They're the best tasting.
Like, I was totally with him. And then, but you would go over to when the Cardinals would come into town, and I remember being at McGuire's locker.
And he was never happy to see anybody.
He was not happy to see anybody.
No.
He was an angry dude his neck was the size of like both my legs combined. Just enormous. And he would have... right in the locker for all to see, Androstene Dion was like right there. They weren't hiding it.
No,
it was something that was legal. So, and I remember, I guess maybe I shouldn't say names outside. McGuire's mostly admitted to it. I think, right? I'm not going to talk about the past, but I remember showing up and seeing one Cub reliever who had like. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? And he turns around and he's got his hand and he's got like 20 pills in his hand. And I'm like, he's like, not now. I'm like, that doesn't surprise you, does it?
No, not at all.
Right. And I'm like, what are you taking to make yourself a successful baseball player?
Hey, real quick before we wrap up the show.
Yeah.
Can we send out good wishes to one of our own?
Oh, for sure. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Samuel Martino, who you produces some of our sports here and works in the sales department as well. Was in a bit of an auto accident over the weekend. Good reports, though, that he's doing well. Came out of surgery okay. And those of us around here that know Sammy, I think he came out of the womb talking and selling. I wouldn't be surprised if before he went under in surgery, he was trying to sell the doctor on Blackhawks package. But it's good to know that he's doing all right. He's a great kid and really loves the station, loves being around this place, and we kind of miss seeing him around here.
Yeah, one of the certainly a bright light, super helpful, super fun. I feel when I saw the story, I was thinking about ways to reply to the email train that was going around. I was thinking about putting Sammy.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Best wishes to Sammy. Best wishes to his family. Hopes for a speedy recovery and all that. And yes, one of my favorite people around here, who's always got a different angle whenever I come in here with something that he's cooking on.
Yeah, he was one of my first students at the Illinois Media School.
Oh, I didn't know
too.
that.
Yeah, so
Very
we go
cool.
back a few years, and great kid, and he's ambitious and energetic. Let's put it to you that way, and we hope to see Sammy soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening tonight. I appreciate you being with us, and Andy, good to be with you. Curtis,
too.
Thanks so much. Carl and Lisa coming on up here, as will WGN Radio Theater. But news right now. Have a great night.
Serving the great Midwest from Chicago, this is 720 WGN. And on your smart device, just by saying play WGN Radio on TuneIn.
WGN Chicago.
A Nexstar Media Group station.
I'm David Jennings in the WGN Radio Newsroom. The news is sponsored by WGN America. Let's get a check of the forecast from the WGN Chicago Weather Center. Here is meteorologist Mike Jansen.
Mostly clear skies for the rest of tonight. Temperatures dropping into the mid-50s. Plenty of sunshine on our Sunday, especially during the afternoon hours. Look for a high near 80 inland, closer to 70 at the lakefront. Clear skies Sunday night, lows in the lower 60s. Much warmer here on a mainly sunny skies on Monday. A high near 90 inland, lower 80s at the lake. Our clouds increase through the day here on Tuesday. So does the chance for showers and thunderstorms. The showers and storms become likely in the late afternoon when temperatures are expected to top out in the mid to upper 80s. It's also going to be breezy and humid. Windy conditions are expected on Wednesday. A chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially as we start the day. Partly sunny and cooler in the afternoon. Highs in the lower 70s. Partly cloudy on Thursday. A chance for a few isolated showers. Highs in the upper 70s, inland upper 60s by the lakefront. Still partly cloudy but cooler on Friday. A chance for a few isolated showers. Lower 70s inland, mid 60s at the lakefront. Then mostly sunny next weekend. Starting out on Saturday, highs in the lower 70s inland, mid 60s by the lake. From the WGN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Mike Jansen.
More than 20,000 people took part in a rally followed by a march demanding change in Chicago after George Floyd's life was taken by police in Minneapolis. Some of the marchers talked about the message they hope they're sending.
I think with a lot of us here, we kind of feel like something needs to change, and we want to do it in a way where we can show solidarity. As a non-African American man, I can't say that I understand everything that's going on, but I can always sympathize and understand the plight of people who are oppressed or people who don't have equal rights.
In Humboldt Park, the Puerto Rican agenda of Chicago added its voice to that growing demand being heard around the country for social justice. 26th Ward Alderman Roberto Maldonado used the occasion to call for the recreation of an old alliance.
My brothers and sisters from the African American community, let's join forces. Let's reignite the Black and Brown Coalition from the Harold Washington era of 1984, and let's make it real this time.
Among those who took part in the protests, Enon Fremikel says it's a shame that black people have to explain that their lives count.
It's crazy that we have to do this for just not even, we're telling you that Black lives matter. That is the very minimum. They matter. Why do we have to explain that our lives matter?
Joseph Lee says he joined the protest because African Americans should not be carrying the burden alone.
And especially as an Asian American man, I thought it was really important to come out and show that, this is not just a Black or African American issue, but it's something that, all communities are standing for.
Chicago's Cardinal Blaise Supich says he finds the participation of multiple ethnicities in these protests is a good thing.
I have seen and been encouraged by the protest being comprised not just of people of a certain age, but also interracial. There are many white faces out there who are part of these demonstrations, peaceful ones, calling for change. So I think that's important.
The Cardinal spoke with WGN's Pete McMurray. A video that appeared on social media last weekend showed a Chicago police officer reacting to protesters by yelling a homophobic slur. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability is recommending that Superintendent David Brown identify that officer and modify his duty status or relieve him of his police powers. In New York City, one of the